Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Jurassic Zoological Garden, and in today's video we are going to build a beautiful swampy habitat for the DEINOCHEIRUS. And we are also gonna add a very special viewing gallery. So let's get started. We are gonna jump right into building the special little viewing gallery, and this is not a tutorial or like something that I've come up with. I've actually also seen a tutorial on YouTube from other creators like Evolution Square, for example, but there was also different creators that were also doing this little trick. And to be fair, this was for an underwater viewing gallery, as you can see right now. But in the end, I realized that the DEINOCHEIRUS doesn't really need deep water. I don't know why I thought that it needs deep water, but it just needs regular water. So in the very end, I completely ripped everything apart and made a regular water area. So the viewing gallery will look a little bit different now than it will be in the very end. I also did not capture how I ripped everything apart, as this was quite stressful for me, to be honest, but in the end it still looks very beautiful. But if you want to know how you build this like underwater viewing area, like a proper underwater, you basically just need to raise the terrain in the area that you want to have this by 10 lines of the terraforming. So you're just gonna raise it and count to 10 lines, and then you're just gonna make a flat area that's big enough so that you can place a lagoon. We only need to place a lagoon so that we can place the underwater viewing area. Then you just have to place the entrance. For me, I just hid it away into like a non-guest area where just the stuff will be. Now you can still see this, but I later ripped that apart too and just hid it away a little bit. So nothing special, as I was building like my own little entrance for this viewing gallery or this viewing dome. So then you can delete the lagoon, and then you can flatten out the terrain again to the original level that it was. So you're gonna completely delete those 10 lines, and then in this area you can place down the deep water, and you can go into the viewing dome to see if you have the correct level. So you should be able to see the floor of the actual viewing dome when you're inside. If not, you might need to lower the terrain by one more line. I actually had to do this, but it's nothing too crazy. You just delete the water, lower the terrain cautiously, just one line, then flatten it again, and then you can place down the water, and it should be a proper underwater viewing. It is actually filled with water, so it is not like waterproof, but it somewhat looks like a proper underwater viewing. I'm actually quite sad that we can't do like glass fencing and then put water behind, similar to Planet Zoo, as I would have loved to do this, but unfortunately we can't. So we kind of have to help ourselves with these little tricks. But in the end, I still think it is somewhat decent. You will see in the very end, as I said, I had to make like just the regular shallow water, so it will be more of like an eye-to-eye viewing dome where you'll be on eye level with the dinosaur. So I still think that it looks really amazing, since this gives the guest a even closer look at the dinosaur, especially since I've placed this fish feeder right in front of the dome. They will be having a wonderful view when the DEINOCHEIRUS is hunting for fish, and you will also see this animation in the very end in cinematic shots. For this habitat, I not only wanted to have this viewing dome, but I also wanted to have a raised platform similar to the ones that I have for the Styracosaurus that was in the last episode. Since it's right next to the stars, I wanted to have a cohesive look, and since it's also this like swampy, muddy area in the whole zoo, I thought that using the wetlands pieces would just be perfect. So I again used them for here. I tried to copy the platform from the other habitat, but it didn't really fit too much, and it was also quite big. So I had to come up with something similar. So it will look really similar, but I also had to kind of find a way around so that it fits over the dome, which was quite hard. So some of the details might not be super perfect, but from the view where the guests will actually be around, I think it still looks pretty decent. And for that, I basically made this look like a dog. So I have all those wooden pieces and all the structure underneath so that it holds up the platform, and to just make sure that no guests and no dinosaur is trying to get into this area or under the dock, I place down the fences right behind the like structural pieces so nothing gets in there. And I also place down the same fence in the water so that the Deinocheirus is not stepping out of the water and out of the habitat. But on the land area there will be like this proper fence from the regular fencing tab. I also wanted to make the viewing area just where the water is, as I feel like this would be the most interesting part, and especially since the Deinocheirus is also almost like semi-aquatic, I would say. I feel like this is the most interesting part, and towards the back of the habitat there will be like a regular area with like a woods or a pasture style. And I also wanted to make it look like the guests can't really see the end of the habitat, so it will be quite lush in the back, nothing too crazy, but it seems like it's just going on and you can't really see where the habitat ends there. And I feel like this came out quite well too, and it didn't really take that much effort to build the backside of the habitat, as this is not really interesting and not for the guests anyways. On the other hand, the viewing area took me quite some time. Only the part that I actually also recorded was already like 2 hours long, and then in the end I also did some decorating here and there, which you will not see in the video, but you will see it in the very end also in the cinematic shots. It was nothing too crazy, just a few benches, a little planter, and a little bit of like theming, so you will see this in the very end. But all in all, this thing took me quite long. This could also be because I haven't built for quite some time, especially more like this intricate pieces, and as I was kind of trying things out here and there, and I had to kind of also figure out how to do it. It took me a bit longer, but in the end I am really happy with the result. And I hope you also like how I designed this whole thing. If you want to have this on the workshop, just let me know. I'm not sure how well this would work as a workshop piece, but you can definitely let me know and comment. Besides that, the whole habitat went by quite fast as soon as I was finished with the viewing gallery, as I was using mostly the terrain brushes. And as I said, the back of the habitat is not too crazy. I just made sure to place down some bigger rocks to make something a bit more interesting, and to not only have like trees and bushes, so it still looks somewhat interesting, but as again not too crazy. And I really do love the terrain brushes, but on the other hand, sometimes I feel like I'm getting quite lazy with making foliage in Jurassic World Evolution 3, since we have the terrain brushes and they do like 90% of the work, especially in bigger habitats. I've already had this problem in Planet Zoo with big habitats for big animals, that it was quite overwhelming to kind of fill in this huge area, and now with dinosaurs the areas are even bigger. So I do struggle a bit with filling out the areas, and on the other side I can use the terrain brushes, so they do most of the work, but other than that I don't really know what to do else with this whole area, so they might not be super interesting. And I do feel like the next habitat I build needs to be something different, so I was either thinking about building a smaller habitat, potentially even a small carnivore As with smaller habitats, I don't feel so overwhelmed, and I am using more of the actual foliage pieces instead of only the brushes. And maybe I will even do a lagoon. I haven't really built a lagoon yet, so this will be interesting, and I was planning on making 1 or 2 lagoons in the zoo, but nothing more. I also will not be doing the mosasaurus since it's a little bit too big, and I do want to stay more on the smaller to medium sized dinosaurs, so I'm not sure which marine animal I want to add. If you have a wish, please comment down below. I will also start a poll in the next days on what lagoon animal I should add once I actually want to start building the lagoon, so you can decide with me what will be going into the zoo. Now, coming back to the whole foliage theme, I really do have to remind myself to even use rocks sometimes, because I simply just forget to use them. I don't know why. So I also made sure to use a couple of smaller rocks to make it look a bit more detailed. And I didn't really place any big trees or bushes, but I made sure to use at least a few other foliage pieces, especially around the water area where I felt like I wanted it to be a bit more lush. And also especially these broken down trees always add a lot of detail to these habitats, and they are not like part of the foliage brushes that I use. So I always remember to add those, as they add a little bit of extra detailing. And other than that, I didn't really do much else of the camera. As I said, I replaced the deep water with the shallow water, and you will see this in the very end. Then only a little bit of foliage decorating on the viewing gallery, and also a little bit of fencing on the pathway, but it's not super interesting. And we are almost at the very end of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it and that you liked the way I designed this habitat. Let me know down in the comments, and hit the like button if you enjoyed, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any more videos that are about to come. You will now see the finished result in the cinematic shots, and I'm already saying my goodbyes, so I hope to see you in the next episode. Until then, bye guys!